There are few places in the city that have experienced as much rapid change as some of the neighborhoods in Ward 6. A new ballpark sprouted up by the waterfront, streetcars coming to H Street. But the economy stalled right as some of these projects were getting off the ground. What can the council do to kickstart the economy so that these long-term projects don't lose steam? But first, Kelvin Robinson, are you a supporter of the streetcar along H Street, which has been, in some quarters, controversial?
Yes, I have been a supporter of the streetcar, but I also want to have a rational plan for what we do long term to fund it. One of the things that I think is important is we made a commitment to those businesses on H Street to ensure that we could bring economic vitality to it, and then we did the next thing. We started the implementation and tore up the street and put, quite frankly, a lot of those local businesses out of business. And what we have to do is make certain that when we begin to move that project forward, we look at how to ensure that we're bringing those local businesses back in to give them the support that we need in order to sustain them. They create local jobs for us, and we ought to make whatever concession we can in order to make certain that they survive.
Some people have suggested this is a racial question. As an African American, the streetcars and the bag tax and the bike lanes and all that are somehow anti-black or just favoring the upper white income people of the city. And I find it incongruous that people would say that, but you've heard that argument. Do you buy into it that somehow or another that's catering to the well-to-do white people in town, as if somehow that black people don't ride bicycles?
Yeah. Again, I think that those issues are really issues that don't deal with the day-to-day lives of individuals who are struggling to make ends meet. I mean, when we talk about...
Is there a racial aspect to that?
Some have certainly suggested...
No, I don't mean some. Whether you think there's a racial aspect.
I'll leave that for those who would consider whether or not they're getting the kind of support they need in the areas.
I think that's you're suggesting that you're open to the idea that there's a racial aspect to Mr. Wells' support of those.
Let me just say that in the ward, I believe
it's a very sensitive issue. That's why I want to be as clear as possible and not.
Well, let me
code words.
I have said, and I've said at my ANC commission meetings that I chair in 6A, that the racial tension is palpable, and we need to have a conversation in our ward about those issues. We can't ignore them, and we ought to be forthright in having a real conversation about the change that's undergoing in the ward.
So you believe there's a racial disparity in the way Mr. Wells represents the ward? That's what you want to have a conversation about it, but you don't want to say it.
Well, that is not what I've said. And what I believe is that as we have change in our communities and we have new people coming, and a majority of those people are coming without the understanding of
they're white people. Is that what you're saying? I'm just trying to be as clear as possible.
Well, I am too.
Allow me to help clarify, because economic tensions in our city often manifest themselves as racial tensions in our city. It seems to me that what you are talking about is that the more affluent members of your ward seem to be getting more benefits from Mr. Wells' tenure than are the poorer residents of your ward. If that ends up being along racial lines, then so be it. But that seems to be the point you're making. With reference to that point, what is it you think that a streetcar does for affluent residents that it does not do for poorer residents?
Well, I'm a supporter of the streetcar, so it's not that I think that the streetcar does something different from one or the other. The question is, where do we put our scarce resources? Do we put it into streetcar? Do we put it into bike lanes? Do we put it into bag tax? Do we put it into chicken farms and backyards? What do we do when we have these major other issues that need to be addressed, like juvenile crime?
Can we hear from Mr. Wells on this racial aspect? Mr. Wells, as not an African American, what are you, Irish, Catholic? What are you?
Norwegian.
Close enough. So what about the racial undertone of this idea, as Kojo just said better than me, that economic disparities could also have a racial effect?
Well, the economic disparity we have in our city, you look at Ward 7 and 8. I just had an event at Big Chair Coffee, the only sit-down coffee place with Wi-Fi in 1/4 of our city. The economic disparity, and Kojo, I appreciate you making it about class and economics, that 1/4 of our city does not have the assets or resources that we've had elsewhere that we enjoy. A streetcar connecting Ward 7 into not only Ward 6, but the Union Station, which is a portal to the world, but also a portal to the city, is really something that's about economic equity and economic justice. And that kind of investment, so people have access to jobs and all the assets that we're building downtown, is something that we've neglected for quite a while. And so when I look at 8th Street Northeast during a deep recession, we've added 30 new businesses, not just taverns and restaurants, but includes a business like Fitness Together, African-owned young woman who runs that business, and she's adding 2 new employees in December. It has been, those are locally owned businesses, hiring local folks. It's been an economic generator while the city's been, struggling elsewhere. That's the kind of thing. And then you take Barracks Row. Again, locally owned businesses growing along Barracks Row. And now, Tom, in your neighborhood, we're bringing more locally owned businesses. Cliffs is moving into your neighborhood down on 4th Street. So the idea of livable, walkable isn't just for Ward 6. It's for the other areas that need economic development because it produces local jobs, local opportunities, and local business owners, as I know Mr. Robinson is very aware of in his own role of owning a local business, that how important this is and that it's not just chains and national investment. It's good for Washington.